You are listening to Practical and Woo by Mindset and Manifest. My name is Eden, and I invite you to embark on a journey with me to explore the practical and spiritual edges of the unknown for the purpose of allowing you to embody and empower yourself uniquely as you are and to intentionally create and live a life of freedom and fulfillment. Each week, I am going to discuss topics such as energetics, reality creation, manifestation, astrology, tarot, and more to help empower you to live beyond perceived limitations and to practically design your life so it feels like absolute magic every step of the way. Let's dive in. Well, hello, brilliant soul. Firstly, I would like to start off by saying, welcome to episode 150 with me. This feels like a tremendous milestone to celebrate our adventure together and to thank you for being here and following this woo path right along with me. I feel so grateful for your presence. And in honor of this, today's episode is one that sits right at the intersection of everything I love. The practical and the woo, the grounded, the mystical, the human, and the becoming. We're talking about what it means to grow into the life you're manifesting, not just acquiring it, but actually being ready for it. Not just calling it in, but being able to hold it. I call this process an authentic becoming, and it's the backbone of so much of what we've already unpacked over the last 149 episodes together. And the point that I want to emphasize as the golden thread of this particular episode is that sometimes what we're asking for is more than what we've yet built for our internal scaffolding to sustain. When we can understand this concept, we can recognize that the beauty of life doesn't intentionally hand us everything at once, as much as we sometimes wish that it would. Life hands us our invitations through opportunities to grow our capacity, through opportunities to expand our nervous system, and through the ability to strengthen the vessel that's meant to hold all of the goodness that we desire. And if we rush or grasp or demand that our vision come into immediate view before we've become the person who can navigate it, it can actually feel like too much, too fast. Sort of being dropped into a new world without a manual. Like someone from Mars suddenly arriving on Earth, wanting to live here fully, but not yet attuned to the gravity, the rhythms, or the unspoken language. Desire might get us there, but capacity is what allows us to stay. When we talk about manifestation, we often focus on the desire phase, the visioning, the intention setting, the feeling as though it's already here. And this is powerful and meaningful. This is how we can open our portals and set our energy in motion. And what I've learned is that manifesting isn't only about calling in. It's also about the conditioning of your vessel. Essentially, the becoming of someone who can move and hold the reality that you've called in with ease. It's not enough to say, I want the ocean. You have to learn how to swim in it. You have to build the lungs that can sustain your breath and practice being with the waves instead of panicking when they rise. And this is the gap where so many of us find ourselves. We want this thing, but we don't yet have the internal muscle to hold its weight. Every single dream carries weight. And this isn't a burden, it's an energy. It's a frequency asking something of you. And when you start to get closer to the things that you want, your life will begin to show where you need to strengthen, release, or rewire yourself in order to meet it. This is what authentic becoming really is. It's the process of growing into alignment with what you've already been asking for. With all of this said, I see authentic becoming as the expansion of 3 core capacities: the emotional self, the mental self, and the energetic. Each of these represents a different layer of your being that needs to evolve if you're truly going to embody the life that you want and not just visit it once in a while. So let's go ahead and dive into and unpack each one of these. Starting off with emotional capacity, or the building of your emotional self. This is your ability to feel, process, and stay open to expansion. Let's say you're stepping into something new, whether a deeper relationship, a bigger stage, or more abundance. Your nervous system interprets this change, any change really, as an uncertainty, and it has to protect against it. Even positive change can trigger the body into survival mode. So when you start growing, your system probably will tighten. You might feel resistance or fear, procrastination, comparison, or self-sabotage. A telltale sign that your emotional system is being stretched in a new range. And so the work here is to learn to self-regulate in the face of expansion, to breathe when your instincts instruct you to shut down, to stay connected to your body when your mind spins in stories, to remember that capacity is built not by avoiding tension, but by learning to stay open through it. It's okay to go slow. You're not falling behind by taking your time. You're integrating. A house built in haste can crumble, and a life built with regulation, embodiment, and grace can hold everything that it's meant to hold. So if emotional capacity is about feeling, then mental capacity, which is what we're going to explore next, is about framing. It's your ability to see clearly, to reinterpret, to release outdated thought patterns that make the new world you're stepping into feel unsafe or impossible. For instance, you might manifest a loving relationship, but if your mind still runs on an old code of something like love means losing yourself, then you'll find ways to push love away because you'll be afraid of losing yourself. You might manifest business success, but if your core belief says that being visible is not safe, you'll likely dim yourself back down. So growing mental capacity means learning to observe your thoughts instead of fusing with them. It means catching old assumptions as they arise and asking yourself, does this belief still belong to who I'm becoming? The mind's job is to label, categorize, and protect. But in your authentic becoming, your job is to educate your mind and to show it that what's new is not a threat, but an evolution of who you are. I often remind myself that my mind is a tool, a learned student, and I am a teacher. And the good news is that when you learn to think in alignment with your becoming, your reality starts to stabilize in that new direction. And then we have the third layer, your energetic capacity, which is the architecture of who you believe yourself to be. This is where the deepest work happens, because your subconscious identity will find ways to confirm itself. If deep down you believe that you're someone who almost gets what they want, but not quite, your subconscious will orchestrate scenarios to prove this to be true. If your identity is still intertwined with struggle or scarcity or needing to earn love, your manifestations will mirror this until your identity shifts. So how do we shift identity? Through practice, embodiment, and the repetition of your chosen truth. You begin to act, think, and make choices as the version of you who already lives the life you desire. Not by pretending or deceiving or deluding yourself or bypassing, but building a muscle memory, emotionally, mentally, and energetically. It's like tuning an instrument to match a new key. At first, it'll sound off, so you'll adjust, you'll play again, you'll listen, and eventually it'll ring true. The evolution of your identity is not about inventing a new self. It's more about releasing the false stories that keep your authentic or true self from leading. It's about remembering who you were before conditioning told you who you shouldn't be. Now, I want to bring in our Martian coming to Earth metaphor. Imagine this person from Mars arriving here for the very first time. They've dreamt of Earth forever. They've read about its beauty, its oceans and trees and human connection and even the art. They've been manifesting this for years. And then one day they get their wish and they land. But suddenly they can't breathe the air. The gravity feels incredibly heavy. The sensory input is overwhelming. They cannot yet interpret the nuances of human interaction. The very environment they longed for becomes a confusing and painful place. Not because Earth is wrong for them, but because they have not built the physiology to thrive here yet. This is what happens to us when we manifest new realities faster than we've expanded our capacity to hold them. We land in our own Earth, whether the job, the relationship, the visibility, and instead of joy, we can feel disoriented. This does not mean that you're not meant for it. It means you're still acclimating to the atmosphere. You're learning the gravity of your new world, its pace, its texture and temperature, and you're growing your inner lungs and muscles and nervous system and language to truly be in it. That's why grace is so essential, because you're learning your new planet, and this learning has to take time. Now that we've named all of these dimensions, let's walk through what this process can feel like and the natural stages of authentic becoming. I see it as 5 cyclical phases. First, we have the stirring. It begins with a sense of restlessness, a whisper in your soul that says, more. You might not even know what more means yet. It's just an awareness that something in your current reality no longer fits. This is a seed phase. It's subtle. It can be easy to dismiss, but it's the invitation to become. And then your vision begins to clarify. You start to see or feel what's calling you forward. You start imagining new ways of being, sketching your futures, setting your intentions. This is where manifestation comes in, and you're setting your energy in motion. But this phase is also about honesty. This is where you ask yourself if you're ready to hold what you're calling in. And more importantly, are you willing to endure growing into the person who can sustain this calling? Once the seed begins to sprout, you meet the friction. The old world collides with the new. Triggers arise, self-doubt whispers. People might not understand your changes. This is calibration at its finest. Every piece of resistance reveals an area where your capacity is ready to expand. This is life's way of saying, here, this is where we strengthen. This phase often feels messy, but it's important because it forges your becoming. And then we have integration, the place where you start practicing what you've learned. You begin showing up differently, not perfectly, but consistently. You hold more presence in moments that used to dysregulate you. You communicate more clearly, love more openly, rest without guilt. You begin to feel yourself inhabiting your new identity instead of chasing after it. The world hasn't necessarily changed, but you have. And then one day, you realize you're living what you once longed for. You've built the internal ecosystem that matches your external life, the one that you were desiring. It feels natural, integrated, lived in. You no longer have to hold on. You are held, because here is embodiment. And from here, the next stirring eventually begins, because growth is perpetual. You keep expanding, not because you're incomplete, but because creation itself is endless. So if there's one message I want you to take from this conversation, it's that allowing yourself time to become is an act of giving yourself necessary grace. You will never be withheld from what's meant for you, only prepared for it. The delay is always, always the training ground. The tension you feel is the strengthening of your capacity to hold all that you've been asking for. So if you're in a season that feels like the in-between, as in not yet where you want to be, but no longer where you were, please remember This is the most fertile part of your journey. You are rewiring your inner world to match your outer one. You are learning the language of your next level. You are quite literally becoming fluent in your own expansion. Until next time.